What's up? Oh man, they didn't have teleprompters for short people.
How are you?
I'm great, but
Don't they look good? Don't they look good?
You guys look fabulous. Are you kidding? I'm so happy to be here after 2 conventions. I'm so needed to be right here with you guys after 2 political conventions. What about you?
Amen. I love these events. It's like a family reunion, right? So ribs and volleyball, and this is over with.
Volleyball. No, I never play volleyball. Yeah, no, I get hit. It's the short person in me. All right, so listen. Welcome to the opening ceremony of the first joint convention of the National Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. Woo! You know what's gonna happen over the next few days. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna come up with a lot of incredible story ideas. We're gonna meet up with our friends and our colleagues from sun up to sundown. We're gonna leave here invigorated. We're gonna leave here understanding that our role in this moment in history is more important perhaps than ever before.
As my dear friend said, this is the first joint convention of our 2 organizations. How blessed are we? And it's more than fitting that we pull our resources together to advocate for our people and train our journalists and media professionals. We will start tonight with greetings from our presidents, Sarah Glover, President of the National Association of Black Journalists, and Mekahlo, Medina, President of NAHJ. Please welcome them to the stage.
Good evening, NABJ, NAHJ. How are you? Nice to see you all. Thank you, and welcome to the 2016 convention of the National Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. This is a momentous occasion. Over the next few days, we will forge a productive relationship between 2 of the largest ethnically diverse organizations dedicated to news coverage. Both organizations are committed to ensuring that our voices are heard in newsrooms around the country. This is our moment. Thank you, ceremony hosts Byron Pitts of ABC News and Maria Hinojosa of Latino USA. And every one of you for coming to our annual convention here in Washington, D.C. And a special thank you to our international guests from Colombia, West Africa, Cuba, and other regions around the globe. I would like to acknowledge the men and women who founded NABJ and NAHJ, who are with us here in the room now. Please stand. We will pay our respect to the elders who founded this organization 40 years ago, right here in this hotel, the Marriott Warman Park. As you know, during the day, I work at NBC-owned television stations as a social media editor. And it is my honor and privilege to serve as NABJ's 21st president. This role excites and challenges me as I'm always looking for ways to increase the presence of people of color, telling stories across newsrooms across this country. We are also here to encourage young people to study journalism and communications and to join our expanding field. We have a session today that was entitled Training Day, geared to meet that goal. Our theme for the NABJ-NAHJ convention is One Mission, Driving Innovation. So during this convention, we will reinforce our mission and hope you will leave here energized, motivated, and ready to enact change when you return home. We have planned a number of exciting workshops, learning and networking opportunities for you all. And in this presidential election year, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is scheduled to address us later in the week. This will be the largest press conference with any presidential candidate before a room filled with journalists of color. We look forward to that conversation. We have also established some new traditions this year, such as the Innovation Bubble and the Look Your Best Pavilion. Healthy NABJ provides strong programming and information on mental health and living in healthy lifestyles. That too is right here throughout the convention week. We invite you to join the nearly 100 workshops designed to improve your journalism and media-related skills. The art of communicating powerfully and effectively will always be an important skill. In fact, it is more critical today. With a 24-hour news cycle, millions of blogs, dozens of social media platforms, people of all ages are receiving their news and information on the go, on your mobile, right? The importance of highly skilled journalists to provide accurate and unbiased information will be key to shaping the major issues facing the country. Our industry has suffered some hits this year. Journalists of color continue to be underrepresented, and many are waging battles over salaries and contracts. Despite this, NABJ continues to thrive because we understand just how critical it is for our industry to become as diverse as possible. This charge may seem daunting, but we are the body that must report the news of the day as comprehensively and as compassionately as possible. This is our moment. We must encourage news outlets to cover not only crime, violence, and death, but also the good taking place in our communities throughout the nation. We have many triumphant stories to tell. There's stories of hope, joy, and unwavering commitment that also need to be shared with readers and viewers and listeners. This is our moment. This week, we honor the tenacity of our Journalist of the Year, Lester Holt. We also salute the members who stand on the front lines in newsrooms around the globe fighting to be heard and fighting for a seat at the table where decisions are made. With nearly 400 attendees at this convention, I'm proud to say that NABJ is stronger than ever. But the struggle of ensuring that Black, brown, and yellow journalists have a place at the table continues. We are at a critical place in our history. It is imperative that we agitate, we protest, we voice our opposition to the status quo. This is our moment to be courageous and courageous, like the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali. And he said it best, fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee. This is our moment to do our due diligence and find the truth in the stories like journalist Jarrett Hill. He was the first to report that Melania Trump's speech had passages from a speech given by First Lady Michelle Obama. And he joined us at this convention this week. We must be calm and focused to tell the world our stories, like the many citizen journalists out there. Diamond Reynolds, who had the presence of mind to Facebook Live the killing of her fiance, Philando Castile, at the hands of a police officer. So as you see, reporters now take on new faces every day. But those of us in newsrooms have a special responsibility to make sure the stories of Philando Castile, Mike Brown, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, and hundreds of others of our brethren are reported with respect and accuracy. This is our moment. We have an obligation. Are you up for the challenge? NABJ stands ready to be your best resource for support and valuable information for you as you rise to the challenge. From technology, latest media trends, best practices, hands-on workshops, in dynamic programs and powerful networking opportunities, we stand with you. Seize the moment. I hope you are empowered during the next 4 days. I hope you walk away with the knowledge, a new career plan, a new strategy to diversify your newsroom, and most of all, new amigos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I'm going to go off the podium because I'm short, and usually I don't look good. That's the plain truth. I want to welcome you. Bienvenidos. Thank you for coming to this amazing event with NAHJ and NABJ. I can't tell you how, yeah, that's a good round of applause. I can't tell you how excited I am to be in this partnership. Sarah and I and our boards, our staff have been working nonstop for 12 hard and long months to make this happen, and I want to make sure they get around it. But this is really the result of some amazing forward thinking and vision of our past presidents, Hugo Balta on NAHJ and Bob Butler on NABJ. Thank you guys very much. You know, as we were getting ready for this convention, and this past year, as we were talking about what would be an epic convention, I had some people ask me, why in 2016, 32 years after NAHJ was created, 40 plus years after NAHJ was founded, or NABJ was founded, why our organizations, why a conference or a convention like this, why that still mattered? And believe me, I had hoped when I joined this organization as a 16-year-old student 22 years ago that I had hoped this country wouldn't need organizations like ours, that we would have completed our missions and it would have been fulfilled by now. But we all know that is not the reality. We see it every day in our newsrooms, we see it every day in the coverage across America, and it's as if we're living in a 1990 America, not 2016. It's as if Latinos don't account for nearly 20% of the US population. It's as if people of color as a whole don't account for nearly 45% of the US population. But here are the facts. We live in what I call a new American mainstream, where people of color and those married to people of color are now the majority in this country, not the minority, the majority. The fact is that still is not reflected on what you see on TV. It's still not reflected in what you read online. It's not even reflected in the Snapchats or the Instagrams that media companies put out today. Those are just the facts. The fact is that for 30 years for NAHJ, 40 plus years for NABJ, our organizations have worked extremely hard to prepare our members for your newsrooms, to prepare our members for leadership roles in your newsrooms. Yet we haven't seen any of those newsroom numbers reflect all the hard work that we've done. And the question remains, why? There's always a lot of excuses. But to be frank, I'm tired of excuses. I've heard them my entire career. I'm not the only one that's heard them my entire career. The generation before heard them their entire career. I say tonight, let's make this next generation not fall victim to those excuses. Tonight, I challenge you. I challenge news companies in this room right here, right now, to do more, to be bolder, to respond to the change in America, not with incremental steps, but with swift action, change that the country demands, that people demand, that this industry demands. I challenge you tonight to do that. And it's not hard. It's not scary either. There are plenty of companies that have done it already, and they have done it with incredible success. Take the lead from companies like BuzzFeed or KPCC in Los Angeles. They have baked diversity into their business models. Their newsrooms and their coverage reflect the world that we live in. And guess what? They are thriving. You can too. But it takes those leaders in those newsrooms, some that are here tonight, to say enough is enough. I've gone to too many chicken dinners. I've sat to too many of these panels where journalists of colors are simply preaching to the choir. I hope they will say to themselves in this room tonight that I am going to do something significant. I am going to move the needle. I am going to be that change. And that's why, when I ask that question, why we exist, why we still matter, well, that's why NAHJ and NABJ still matter. It matters because Latinos are 20% of the US population, yet 5% of print and digital newsrooms, 8% of broadcast newsrooms, and far less when it comes to management. It matters more than ever because Latino journalists, black journalists, really all journalists of color, and women journalists, they're paid less, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars less in newsrooms like the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, and those are just the newsrooms we know of. It matters more than ever because cable news has conversations about race and ethnicity in presidential politics, and you never see a Latino at the table. It matters because Latino journalists and black journalists in presidential news conferences, some are being kicked out of those conferences or singled out for simply doing their jobs, asking questions and demanding answers. It matters more than ever because a network news anchor or a debate moderator still refers to undocumented immigrants as illegals or illegal aliens in 2016. No human is illegal. It matters because we matter. Thank you very much.
So, I just want to tell you that actually because of all of that, I formed my own company, so I'm the boss. I had never run a media company like many of you. I was like, what? But I did it. And so I want to also encourage you, those of you who want to actually try and do that. And there are two words that we don't use in our newsroom. One of them is minority. And the other one is illegal. We do not refer to people as illegal. So you know, this is the right time for us to be convening here in Washington, D.C., because if you have read the headlines, in terms of anything that's happening around presidential politics or any politics, policing in our communities, immigration, educating our children, banning Muslims from our country. Anyway, all of that has to run through this town. So are we going to do this? Yes, we're good. So here to bring us greetings on behalf of the District of Columbia, it is my honor to bring to you the Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is currently in her 13th term representing the District of Columbia Congress.
What a pleasure it is to be in a room with so many Black and Hispanic journalists. Wow, is this what the world looks like? Especially if you come out of the Congress and I come out of it. This is a welcoming, this is a very welcoming sight. I am so pleased to welcome the National Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Hispanic Journalists once again to the nation's capital. I say once again because I was privileged to welcome your leadership to the Capitol itself just a few months ago. But now, on behalf of the almost 700,000 people I represent, most of them Black and Hispanic, I am pleased to welcome all of you here to the nation's capital. Now, in case you didn't know how powerful it is to have Black and Hispanic press have a joint convention Please don't take my word for it. Take Hillary Clinton's word for it. Why do you think she's showing up here, people? She knows that this joint convention is historic and that you are powerful. Now, I'm just back from the Democratic National Convention. I also served on the platform committee a few weeks before the convention. So I can say to you without fear of contradiction that you're going to be treated to a truly serious, if rousing, discussion about real policy priorities affecting our communities. Just watch for it. When you were last here in April, when your leadership was last here in April, you asked me to request from the General Accounting Office, the GAO, a report on federal advertising for contracts and subcontracts with minority-owned media companies. Well, I have not only formally made the request for that GAO study, I have gotten a number of other members to sign on to that request for me, with me. And all the reason to. The federal government is the largest advertiser in the United States. If news outlets published by Black and Hispanic people aren't privy to the federal government's advertising, they cannot be assured of reaching our people. Particularly as African American and especially Hispanics grow in number. When I looked into this matter, I found that in 2007, the GAO had done a report on Black and Hispanic businesses, media businesses. It looked at 5 big agencies, which is a good way to tell whether the federal government is in it. It looked at the Department of Defense, Department of Treasury, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Interior, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So that's 2007, and what they found then was that just 5% of federal dollars went to Black and Hispanic media companies. No wonder you asked me to request another GAO report. They better look at where the growth is in this country and how to reach that growth. So I hope to have that report for you the next time you come to Washington. I so appreciate this first joint Black and Hispanic convention of our journalists. People of color are clearly on the attack of the Republican presidential candidate. Now, Black and Hispanic press, I have to congratulate you because you have already done much to bring our two communities together. The Black community has always been strongly Democratic. You forgive me, forgive my partisanship. I do think that this year it's warranted, though. All you gotta do is spend 5 minutes before a television set. Now, the Hispanic community, which my good Republican friends have understood they had a chance to get, and indeed have gotten, in at least some respectable numbers in other races, has been largely Democratic, but less so than the Black community. Let me tell you something about Hispanic power. Because I saw something I have never seen in all of my years in politics by any group of Americans in the last presidential election. I witnessed it, I received it in the House of Representatives. There was such a strong Hispanic vote in the last election that the Republicans said they had to do an autopsy on themselves. You see what the Hispanic community did? They won simply by going to the polls a concession from the Republican Party that they must have the Hispanic vote to win a presidential election. It was incredible. I've never seen it done in one election before. To show that the Republicans understood what that strong vote for Democrats, no less, meant, they wrote an immigration reform bill and actually got it passed through the Senate of the United States. These fools could not pass it through my House of Representatives. Well, it's going to be on them. Donald Trump has torn up the autopsy, and in doing so, he's guaranteed an even stronger Hispanic vote in 2016, November the 8th. When Trump defamed our Hispanic brothers and sisters, black people got the message. This is what I mean by the Hispanic and the black press have already brought our communities together. You notice that Donald Trump has had little to say about blacks. But blacks have taken great umbrage about what Trump said about Hispanics. Our own long history as African Americans teach us that bigots can't really tell one of us from the other. So I was delighted to see one poll which showed still a small smattering of what must have been the traditional clump of Hispanic voters that still, Hispanics who still said they would vote for Trump. And the same poll showed 0 blacks said they would vote for Trump. We got the message, and he wasn't even talking about us, but he was, and we knew it. So as I welcome this historic joint convention of our Black and Hispanic press, I also want to thank you for your support for DC statehood. This is why we feel so stronger. The people I represent are number one per capita in federal taxes paid to support the government of the United States. And we have no senators, and that final vote on the House floor we do not have, though I vote in committees and have all the other privileges. That which is it tells you are an American citizen is you pay taxes, you cast a vote. The people I represent have participated in every war, including the war that created the United States of America itself. So DC statehood is the last great barrier for equal rights in our country, and there's no other way to get those rights without statehood. But your most important work in the coming November 8th election is to reach out to the new America. Minorities have become the new American majority, and we know it. And we also know that we stand in the way of a would-be autocrat vying to become president of the United States, who has nobody's interest but his own in mind. If together we make a big difference in this election, it will make a big difference in the lives of African Americans and Hispanics in our country. Thank you for your unique contributions, your unique services to our communities, and welcome to Washington.
Another hand for her, please, as she leaves the table. Would y'all mind if I took a family selfie? So next time Someone tells me they can't find us. That's true. 1, 3, everybody smile. 1, 2, 3. All right, one more. No pressure, right? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hey! All right, thank you so much. DC Shadow Representative Franklin Garcia is a member of NAHJ. He's also working to make the District of Columbia the 51st State of the Union. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Representative Franklin Garcia to the stage.
Buenas noches. It's a great crowd, incredible. Good evening, my name is Franklin Garcia, the U.S. Shadow Representative for the District of Columbia. It is a great pleasure to welcome you and bring brief remarks to the Joint National Association of Black Journalists and National Association of Hispanic Journalists 2016 Convention. First, let me congratulate the organizers, NABJ President Sarah Glover and NAHJ President Mekahlo Medina, and convention co-chairs Hugo Balta and Ryan Williams. And thank Brando Benavides and Kerwin Spike for extending an invite for me to be here. Let me also recognize some Afro-Latino delegation headed by my friend Hernando Viveros, all the way from Colombia. I think if you can stand up there, I think you're right over there. Thank you for being here. We're pleased that you have chosen your nation's capital to gather thousands of professionals in the field of journalism who will come together over the next several days. Well, while not formally trained in journalism, I've always had a passion for the field, many times making use of the tools of the craft to further my work. Whether reaching out to members of Congress to ask for support for DC statehood, or to join forces with other community groups to denounce hate speech, I recognize the value of the profession. And I know that in today's time, anyone who publishes on a blog or streams a video on Facebook or YouTube can auto-proclaim themselves as journalists. Indeed, this constant evolving world of technology may be most felt in the field of journalism. I am unclear if these technological changes are directly tied to the lack of more minorities in mainstream media. The minority population in the US is around 37%, but in 2014, all minority groups accounted for only 22% of television journalists, 13% of radio journalists, and 13% of journalists at daily newspaper. But you don't need to hear numbers to recognize the lack of diversity in mainstream television. Take, for example, all the major networks on these talking heads, and you see this. And there is a reason to take note of this. It's not only because our kids, the next generation, who are watching and need to see themselves in what they see and listen, but mainstream media also helps shape other non-mainstream media. For example, I believe that a big culprit for the absence of dark-skinned people or Afro-Latinos in Spanish-speaking media is related to the underrepresentation of people of color we see in mainstream English media. The pale image that appears to sell well in mainstream media is what not only the Spanish producers are clearly going for, but to a certain degree, it's what the audience has come to expect. We have somewhat moved away from depicting minorities in their traditional subservient roles by keeping them off-screen. Now we just have to bring more of us to the front. But there's also some good news. The percentage of minorities employed in daily newspaper, for example, has increased from 4% in 1978 to around 13% in 2014, an increase of 11% that has taken more than 34 years. Hardly a reason to celebrate. So it is up to us in leadership positions and those of you in mainstream media to help bring more visibility and help secure more prominent roles for minorities in mainstream media. And organizations like NABJ and NAHJ, and also the Asian American Journalists Association and the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association will be key to helping that challenge. So it is my hope that we all continue to support all of them. Please enjoy the convention, and once again, welcome to your nation's capital. Thank you.
So, ¿cómo estamos? How we doing? Come on! It's only Wednesday! I don't know what that means because I don't drink anyway! It's bad. I mean, half of a beer and it's like a hangover. Next day, bad. So, partners. Partners are so critical in the work that we do, and especially so critical to the NAHJ and NABJ to fulfill their missions. I know that, again, because of my own work running a nonprofit. If you don't have the partners who support you with the funding, you can't do the work that you need to do. So tonight's opening ceremony partner is the Coca-Cola Company, and we are grateful for their commitment to our organizations. And here to talk about that commitment is Yanis Emir. She's the Senior Manager of Community Relations for Coca-Cola North America. Round of applause.
Thank you, Maria. Good evening, NABJ and NAHJ. You guys look absolutely amazing. So can we please give you all a round of applause? On behalf of my DC-based colleagues and our entire Coca-Cola family, we are excited to help welcome you to our nation's capital for the National Association of Black Journalists and National Association of Hispanic Journalists 2016 Joint Convention. Both organizations do a tremendous job bringing industry professionals together and equipping them with the information, connections, and resources needed to lead successful careers, and we are honored to continue our partnership of both organizations. And it's also great to see two of the largest minority journalist organizations in the United States come together for this historic moment. Excuse me. So to the esteemed presidents, Sarah Glover, President of the NABJ, and Mekahlo Medina, President of NAHJ, founders and board members of both organizations, we commend you for your commitment and advocacy to strengthen ties, promote fair treatment, and expand job opportunities for Black and Hispanic journalists. To the award recipients, we congratulate you for your hard work and dedication to paving a brighter path for other industry professionals. So during the convention, I invite you to stop by the Coca-Cola Sampling Lounge in the exhibit hall to stay hydrated and refreshed, of course, with an array of delicious beverages. So thank you again for being here. We look forward to seeing you throughout the convention. Cheers!